Azure API Management for SMBs, 5 integration patterns that work. Welcome back. Today's topic is Azure API Management for SMBs, 5 integration patterns that work. We'll cover what you actually need to know about Azure API Management. Next up, what Azure API Management actually does. Azure API Management is a fully managed API gateway service on Microsoft Azure. It sits between your API consumers and your API backends, handling authentication, rate limiting, caching, request transformation, and monitoring in one place. What it is not, a full integration platform like MuleSoft, or a no-code automation tool like Power Automate. APIM doesn't move data between systems on its own. It exposes APIs and controls how those APIs are called. You still need something behind the gateway doing the actual work. That distinction matters. Teams that expect APIM to just connect two systems often end up disappointed. Teams that treat it as a controlled, version API layer on top of existing systems get real results. Now, next up, why legacy integration fails for most SMBs before they try APIM. Most SMB integrations fail not because the technology is wrong, but because they're built without a reliability layer. Here's what typically happens: an SMB connects System A to System B using a direct database connection or a custom script. It works fine in testing. 6 months later, System A gets an update, the schema changes, and every downstream integration breaks at once. The core problem is tight coupling. When System A talks directly to System B, any change in either system ripples everywhere. Azure API Management solves this by introducing a version contract layer. System A calls an API. The gateway handles translation. System B can change its internals without breaking the contract. The second failure pattern is authentication. Legacy systems often use basic auth, IP whitelisting, or no auth at all. Exposing them to cloud workloads without a proper security layer creates a serious vulnerability. APIM's policy engine adds OAuth 2.0, API key management, and JWT validation without touching legacy system code. Next up, let's talk about pattern 1, the legacy facade. The problem: you have a 15-year-old ERP or accounting system that works fine internally, but no modern app can talk to it. Its data is locked behind a proprietary protocol or a database schema that only 2 people on the team fully understand. The solution: deploy Azure API Management in front of the legacy system. Write a thin adapter layer that translates APIM calls into whatever format the legacy system accepts. The legacy system never needs to change. This is the most common pattern at SMBs, and often the fastest to implement. In most cases, the adapter layer takes 2 to 4 weeks to build. The APIM configuration on top of it takes another few days. Let's talk about moving on to pattern 2, hybrid gateway for on-premise to cloud connectivity. The problem: your core data lives on-premise, but you need cloud services to access it. VPNs work but are fragile. Direct database access from the cloud is a security problem waiting to happen. The solution: use Azure API Management with Azure Hybrid Connections or Azure Virtual Network Integration. APIM sits in Azure but routes requests through a secure relay to your on-premise services. The on-premise system only receives inbound requests from a known, authenticated source. This works well for SMBs that aren't ready to lift and shift their data to the cloud but need cloud apps to consume on-premise data. A healthcare SMB running patient records on a local SQL server can expose specific read-only APIs through APIM without moving any records to Azure. APIM enforces authentication, rate limiting, and audit logging at the gateway level. Now, let's talk about pattern 3, ERP integration via Azure API Management. The problem: your ERP holds the source of truth for inventory, orders, and finance. Your warehouse app, e-commerce platform, and customer portal all need ERP data, but connecting each one directly to the ERP creates a fragile web of point-to-point integrations that breaks whenever anything changes. The solution: expose ERP data through a set of version APIM APIs. Each API represents a business domain: orders, inventory, customers, shipments. Downstream systems subscribe to relevant APIs through the APIM developer portal. The ERP team owns and versions the APIs. Other teams never touch the ERP directly. Instead of maintaining 5 point-to-point integrations, you maintain 5 API subscriptions. When the ERP gets updated, you update one API contract and the rest of the system continues working. The ERP team controls the release cadence of API changes independently from the consuming systems. Next up, now, Pattern 4, Multi-Channel API Hub for Partner and Customer Portals. The problem: you need to give partners, customers, and internal teams access to your services, but each audience needs different permissions, rate limits, and data subsets. Managing this through individual integrations gets expensive and inconsistent quickly. The solution: use Azure API Management's product and subscription model to create a multi-channel hub. A product in APIM terms is a bundle of APIs with specific policies attached. You create a partner API product with read-only access to orders and inventory, a customer portal product with account data access, and an internal product with broader permissions. Each subscriber gets an API key tied to their product. APIM handles authentication, rate limiting, and access control centrally. You can see every API call across all channels in one dashboard. Onboarding a new partner becomes a self-service process through the developer portal instead of a custom integration project. Let's talk about next up, Pattern 5, Secure APIs for Regulated Industries. The problem: healthcare, banking, and logistics SMBs often need to expose data to external systems while meeting strict compliance requirements. Managing security controls scattered across multiple systems creates audit headaches and real risk. The solution: use Azure API Management as the single enforcement point for security policies across all external API calls. APIM supports OAuth 2.0, mutual TLS, JWT validation, IP filtering, and subscription-based access control out of the box. Compliance policies apply at the gateway level, so back-end systems don't need individual security implementations. For healthcare SMBs, this means a single audit log for all external data access. For banking SMBs, APIM can enforce rate limits that prevent bulk data extraction, add required security headers, and route all call logs to Azure Monitor for regulatory review. According to Microsoft's Azure compliance documentation, APIM is part of the Azure service portfolio covered under HIPAA, SOC 2, and PCI DSS attestations. Next up, moving on to what Azure API Management costs for SMBs. Azure API Management has 4 tiers, and the cost difference between them matters at SMB budgets. Hey, race the realistic breakdown. For most SMBs, the basic tier covers early production use. The jump to standard makes sense when you need self-hosted gateways for hybrid on-premise connectivity or when call volume pushes past basic tier limits. According to Microsoft's APIM pricing page, call volume beyond included units is billed per million calls, which typically adds $10 to $40 per month for moderate SMB traffic. Where SMBs overspend, starting in standard or premium just in case and paying $700 to $2,800 per month for capacity they want need for 12 to 18 months. Start at basic, monitor your usage dashboard, and upgrade when you actually hit the limits. APIM's analytics make this easy to track without guessing. Next up, conclusion. Azure API Management gives SMBs a way to modernize without the cost and risk of rebuilding everything from scratch. The 5 patterns covered here cover the majority of real-world integration scenarios SMBs face when connecting old systems to new ones. The key discipline is treating Azure API Management as a long-term architectural decision, not a quick-fix project. Define your API versioning strategy before you start. Invest time in developer portal documentation so your team can actually use what you build. Set up monitoring and alerts from day one so you're not debugging blind 6 months in. If you're planning a cloud migration or legacy modernization project, start with an architecture review that maps your current integration points and identifies which of these 5 patterns apply. Your actual implementation will have specific wrinkles that need tailored solutions. The goal is a durable integration layer that doesn't break every time a system gets updated, and Azure API Management, used correctly, delivers exactly that.